Good day, ladies and gentlemen, fellow Gooners across the world. I hope everyone is well today. We've got some fantastic news articles to go through today. The first one being from Football 365. Arsenal restart negotiations for £40 million Atalanta star, but the chosen one hails from Borussia Dortmund. Arsenal have restarted negotiations with Ademola Lookman over a move to the Emirates this summer, while report claims the Gunners are squeezing for an alternative winger. The Gunners look to have missed out on Nico Williams, who's nearing a move to Barcelona from Athletic Bilbao. And although Real Madrid's Rodrigo remains the dream for Mikel Arteta, amid doubts over his future under new boss Xabi Alonso, Sporting Director Andre Aberta is in talks with other left-wing options. Arsenal was said to be keen on signing Lookman last summer when Atalanta managed to retain the services of the former Everton and Fulham forward. But the 27-year-old is now thought to be pushing for the exit, despite Gianpiero Gasperini leaving Atalanta for Roma. Lookman hit out at his former boss over his disrespectful claim that Lookman is one of the worst penalty takers I've ever seen. Wow, that is quite a horrible thing to say. And although his manager was thought to be one of the key reasons the Nigeria international wanted to leave the club, the arrival of Ivan Juric to replace Gasperini appears not to have altered his stance. He may well end up at Arsenal, who have restarted negotiations with Atalanta for Lookman, with the Serie A side setting an asking price of £38 to £43 million plus add-ons, according to Court Offside. Liverpool have also been keeping an eye on him, amid doubts over the futures of Luis Diaz and Cody Gakpo, but Arsenal remain the most likely candidates and have now restarted those talks with an aim to do a deal this summer. The move for Lookman, who got 20 goals and 7 assists in all competitions last term, would delight Arsenal legend Ian Wright, who picked out the winger as his ideal transfer for his beloved Gunners. Wrighty said, "I'm going to go with Ademola Lookman winning the African Player of the Year in respects of that man's journey. I remember him from Charlton. It didn't worth out £10 million to Everton. I'm not sure. There could be a major grammar error there on behalf of the publication, not me. Anyway, then moving all over the place, the journey from loan to this, then I think that's one of the most devastating performances I've seen in any final with that hat-trick he scored. I hope we can buy him," says Wrighty. "I would love someone like him to come back to the Premier League and say, listen, I have unfinished business here, so I'm going to help Arsenal win the league." Well, Ian Wrighty, Arsenal legend, there's not much I can say in argument to that. But it seems like we're not going from strength to strength. I mean, we were first linked with Rodrigo, Rafael Leao, top players. Now recently it's Noni Madueke, Jadon Sancho, now Lookman. So, we need to get the best possible player that we can. I don't think that this is the best possible player we can. Anyway, the Daily Cannon. The Daily Cannon reports Arsenal to make second bid for 21-year-old after first bid rejected. This is for the defender, Cristhian Mosquera. Arsenal returned with an improved offer for Cristhian Mosquera after Valencia rejected the opening bid for the 21-year-old centre-back earlier this week. Fantastic. I hope we get this player. The first proposal with just under £16 million was swiftly dismissed by Valencia who are holding out for a package closer to £21 million. According to Super Deporte, Andrea Berta, Arsenal sporting director, is now preparing a second approach that will include a higher base fee and additional performance-related variables to bring the total closer to the Spanish club's valuation. Come on, Berta, get this one done. For £21 million, 41 appearances for Valencia, and a Spanish under-21 international. This looks to be a player of tremendous quality. He's also quite a tall player, 6'2", and he looks very athletic, very cunning. Let's get this one done, boys. The club's final package is likely to include between 3 million and 5 million euros in add-ons, depending on appearances and team performance benchmarks. Okay, Berta, who previously tracked Mosquera while working at Atletico Madrid, is understood to have made the defender a personal priority since his arrival in North London. Both Berta and Mikel Arteta believe Mosquera would add depth and long-term quality behind established first-choice pairing Gabriel Magalhaes and William Saliba. Arsenal's interest is not new. Talks began informally in May, with formal negotiations intensifying following Mosquera's participation in the Under-21 European Championships. Valencia rejected the initial offer made on Friday, and discussions are expected to resume in the coming days. Mosquera, whose contract runs until June 2026, would be eligible to sign a pre-contract agreement abroad in January if no deal is reached. But it has been reported previously, just my take on the situation, that Mosquera wants to push through a deal sooner than January because he wants his current club to cash in on him instead of letting him go on a free. Anyway, back to the article, fellow Gooners. Arsenal are aware of this timeline and are applying pressure accordingly, knowing that Carlos Corberan and former Chelsea man Ron Goulet must either agree a sale now or risk losing leverage as the window progresses. Valencia are also juggling other negotiations, including interest from Feyenoord in Jarek Kasiorowski, whatever that is. Okay, but Mosquera's situation is more pressing due to his contract and current status as a key part of Corberan's defence. Arsenal remain confident that Mosquera wants the move. Valencia's willingness to negotiate, coupled with the risk of losing a player for less in the future, should hopefully work in their favour. So, things are progressing for Cristhian Mosquera. Fantastic. Okay. Give Me Sport Publications reports. After Norgard, Arteta tells Arsenal to sign elite midfielder with a £35 million bid ready. Hope everyone's got their cup of coffee for the Arsenal news. Arsenal are reportedly keen on signing Barcelona midfielder Marc Casado and are willing to pay £35 million for the Spanish youngster. Spanish outlet Fichijes.net reports that the Gunners are ready to launch a bid for Casado, taking advantage of the Catalans' need to free up salary space and generate revenue. The La Liga Giants' acquisition of Joan Garcia and the likely signing of Nico Williams puts pressure on them to balance their books. Casado was a breakout star in Barcelona's team last season, flourishing under new manager Hansi Flick in defensive midfield. The 21-year-old established himself as a starter until Frankie de Jong returned from injury and 18-year-old Mark Bernal started shining. And here we can see a picture of the young lad. A little defensive midfielder maestro. Arsenal prepare bid for Casado. Mikel Arteta plans to partner him with Martin Zubimendi. Arsenal are making significant moves this window and are closing in on deals for Brentford's Christian Norgard and Real Sociedad's Martin Zubimendi. The latter was in London this week to finalise a move to the Emirates worth £51 million, but he might not be the only Spanish arrival. Now, we do know that the actual amount was £56 million for Martin Zubimendi, not £51 million. It was £56 million in 3 installments. It suggested that Mikel Arteta is pushing for Casado and considering partnering him with Zubimendi in a new-look midfield. Thomas Partey looks set to depart when his contract expires, and Jorginho left for the Brazilian outfit Flamengo earlier this month, leaving the Gunners short in the defensive midfielder positions. Casado hasn't asked to leave Barcelona just as yet, but he's aware of the limited first-team opportunities heading into next season. The Catalans aren't ruling out a sale, especially if they receive an offer of around £35 million for the La Masia Academy graduate. And we know that La Masia, the most famous academy in the world, players produced at La Masia are always highly regarded all over the globe. Some statistics for Marc Casado from his first season at Barcelona: 23 appearances, 1 goal, 3 assists, 3 big chances created, averaging 1.9 tackles per game and 3.9 ball recoveries per game. So, not that great in my opinion. But anyway, he's still young, and with some good mentoring, I'm sure he can become a top player. The 2-cap Spanish international, dubbed Elite, has 3 years left on his current deal, so there is no pressure on the La Liga champions needing to cash in as yet. He's also not the only young midfielder on the North Londoners' wish list, with reports claiming they are eyeing Corinthians' Breno Bidon, 19-year-old, likened to Barca's Pedri. Okay, so that's some more interesting news. Arsenal prepare bid for Casado with an evaluation of £35 million. Okay, now Football Fancast reports a big Eze upgrade. Arsenal open talks to sign £70 million machine from Premier League club. Wow, that is a bold statement. An Eze upgrade. Well, what are we talking about here? There's not many players that's an upgrade on Eze, unless we're talking about Rodrigo or maybe a Rafael Leao. Following a slow start to the transfer window, in which they appear to be doing very little, Arsenal have burst into life in this past week. Mikel Arteta's side might still be some way away from signing their marquee striker, but based on reports from the last few days, they appear incredibly close to securing the services of Cristhian Mosquera and Kepa Arrizabalaga, and the deal for Martin Zubimendi looks as assured as ever. While we do know Cristhian Mosquera, Kepa Arrizabalaga and Martin Zubimendi, those deals are all but done, and we are set to make a second bid for Cristhian Mosquera. And if talks are to be believed today, we're also in for a new defensive midfielder, a 21-year-old from Barcelona. So we are making some progress, albeit in areas that should be less of a priority. We should be focusing on getting the striker done and the left wing. Anyway, let's continue with the article. Interestingly, several links to the incredibly talented Eberechi Eze have also been emerging in recent days, who would be an exceptionally exciting addition to the Gunners squad, and no one can argue with that. Yet, if more recent stories are to be believed, Andrea Berta, Top G and company may be looking at another English talent, someone who would be an even better signing than the Crystal Palace star. Arsenal chasing England stars at the moment. While there was plenty that went wrong for them this season, Arsenal's biggest issue was their lack of cutting edge and at times creativity. Shame Martin Odegaard not having the best season for Arsenal, but as we all know, form is temporary, class is permanent, and Martin Odegaard has a lot of class. So next season, you'll be back up and running, I'm sure of that. Back to the article. So with that clearly in mind, the club have been linked with a host of brilliant attack-minded players in recent weeks, a number of whom also happen to be England internationals like Anthony Gordon and Eberechi Eze. The former reportedly has a price tag of around £80 million, and while he didn't have his best campaign to date this year, he was still reasonably effective, racking up 16 goal involvements in 42 games, including 3 against the Gunners. Player in question, Anthony Gordon. So which would you guys rather prefer, Anthony Gordon or Eberechi Eze? I know I'm going Eze all day. Eze, on the other hand, has a release clause in his current deal worth around £68 million and would therefore be a little easier to bring to the Emirates. However, as talented and exciting player the 26-year-old is, it looks like the North Londoners could now be looking at yet another 3 Lions star as an alternative, if not an outright upgrade. Aston Villa strikes first. Morgan Rogers is at the back post to finish off the ruthless counter-attack. Hint, hint. At least that's according to a recent report from Express, which claims that Arsenal are very much interested in signing Aston Villa's Morgan Rogers. Not bad. In fact, the report goes a step further, revealing that after making initial contact over a month ago, the Gunners remain in talks with the 21-year-old's camp over a potential deal. However, given his importance to the Claret and Blue, the report claims it will take an offer of around £70 million from the North Londoners if they want to get their man Morgan Rogers. Now, if that be the case, I would rather just go and get Eberechi Eze or preferably Rodrigo, which is our dream signing. Anyway, back to Rogers. It would be a costly and potentially complicated transfer to get over the line, but given Rogers' immense ability and potential, it's one Arsenal should be pursuing, especially as it'd be a serious upgrade on Eze. Well, he is younger. How does Rogers compare to Eberechi Eze? So with their price tag barely nearly the same, why should Arsenal be looking to sign Rogers over Eze this summer? Let's have a look. Morgan Rogers, last season 54 games, 14 goals and 15 assists. Premier League ranking, Rogers ranks 4th for assists, 5th for through balls and 6th for successful take-ons. Not bad for a 22-year-old young stalwart. Well, the first reason why he would be an upgrade on Eze relates to their output in the Premier League this season, as the Villa Dynamo was able to score 8 goals and provide 11 assists in 37 appearances, which comes out to an average of a goal involvement every 1.94 games. In contrast, the former Queen's Park Ranger Gem scored 8 goals and provided 8 assists in 34 appearances, which comes out as still good but less impressive, averaging of 2.12 goal involvements per game. Well, we also need to consider the fact that overall Aston Villa has a much better team than Queen's Park Rangers, than Crystal Palace. And so that could also sway this discussion into another direction. We can't compare Eberechi Eze's stats with Morgan Rogers until Eberechi Eze actually plays in the Aston Villa team in the position Morgan Rogers does, if that makes sense. Because let's face it, you're going to get way more support from an Aston Villa team than you will a Crystal Palace team, especially going forward. That's just my take. So, Rogers vs Eze. Statistics. We do like our statistics here on Arsenal News 24. Rogers vs Eze. Non-penalty Goals and assists, Rogers 0.5, Eze 0.5, identical. Progressive passes, 3.5 for Rogers. For Eze, 3.3, identical. Progressive passes received, for Rogers 5.43, Eze 5.31. Progressive carries, here Rogers has the upper hand, 3 to Eze's 2. Passing accuracy, both identical at 73 and 74. Passes into the penalty area, Rogers with 1.6 to Eze's 1.3. Passes into the final third, which is important. Rogers 2.1, Eze 1.7. Shot creating actions, here Eze takes a clean cut advantage with 4.69 to Rogers' 3. Other than that, they're all pretty much the same in every aspect. Carries into the final third, 1.97 for Rogers, 1.67 for Eze. Carries into the penalty area, 0.95 per match for Rogers and 0.76 for Eze. So practically the same. Finally, the former Manchester City prospect is 4 years younger than the 26-year-old Eagle star and already has experience in playing in the Champions League and fighting for places near the top of the Premier League. So the transition to title challenger should be easier for him. Ultimately, both players would be incredible signings for Arsenal this summer, but thanks to his better output, underlying numbers, experience and the fact he's far younger, Arsenal should be looking to sign Rogers over Eze. And of course, Rodrigo's still our preferred target for the left wing. I would be looking at Rafael Leao, specifically for his burst of pace, the ability to take on defenders, get past them with ease, and he's a tall player, so better suited for us because we are, after all, the set-piece kings. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today's news articles. You can see we are linked with a host of players, all top quality. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoy your Sunday. And God bless you all, and God bless Arsenal. We'll be back again tomorrow with some more breaking news. Cheers.